Hi, I'm Peter Kleins, and in the before time, I ran the Writers Coffeehouse at Dark Delicacies in Burbank, California. Now that we're all social distancing, some friends and I are going to try and answer your writing questions here online. So ask away. Thanks, everybody, for coming again. Our question is from, I actually just got this today, from Norsemeat on Instagram, aka Scott. I'm assuming one of them is his real name, Scott or Norsemeat. I don't know which one. I'd love to hear about promoting a book that's coming out soon. Is there a resource for finding podcasts that talk to authors? Similarly, for finding outlets that will review books? Any tips for trying to get advanced copies in the hands of celebrities, authors, influencers who might post about it? Other avenues I could or should be exploring? Anybody want to dive in on this one? Or tell an embarrassing story about how they tried to get Stan Lee to blurb their first book? Anyone?
Did you do that, Peter?
I totally did, yes. Because my first book was Ex-Heroes, and because at the time I was still writing for a screenwriting magazine, and right off the bat, I'm going to tell you all now, I have since learned, don't do this. Do not do what I'm about to say. I called in favors, and I got numbers. I ended up on the phone with Bruce Campbell's manager for a while. I tried getting, let's see, Bruce Campbell. I think Sam Raimi. Like I sent messages off to him. But the grand slam was somebody got me the number for Stan Lee's office in Hollywood.
Oh, wow.
And so I had like my whole little script worked out because, I know obviously I'm going to talk to somebody who will be the person who will get me in touch with the person who will put the book in Stan Lee's hands. And if I'm really lucky, I can just say that Stan Lee touched my book. And so this is absolutely true. I called up with like my whole thing running through my head. Say this, 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 say this. And the phone clicks over. Hey, it's Stan. And I'm like, hello? I was wondering, I'm trying to get in touch with Stan Lee. And there's just this dead pause. And then he just kind of laughs. He's like, yeah, hang on a minute. And he gives me to somebody else. And then I give the spiel like to the guy standing next to him. And the guy listens to her. Yeah, Stan's very busy right now. Click.
Oh man.
So that was me trying to get in touch with.
How has that story not come up at the con bars before?
I don't know.
Story.
I put it. I hate to say. I put it up in a couple of places when he died. I mentioned it.
Oh, yeah.
Because the other thing, and also Bruce Campbell's manager is a wonderfully sweet guy. I will say that. Bruce Campbell has never seen, to the best of my knowledge, touched one of my books, but his manager is a wonderful guy who listened to me and talked to me and explained. Was just very cool about it. But so don't do that. Do not waste your favors on your first book. No, seriously, somebody give better tips than that.
Here's the thing. This is where I have to admit, I feel like I feel like I dropped the ball on this because I just maybe because I'm just such a cynic. I just feel like promotion is so much of a waste of my energy. I just don't do it. I mean, I'll do it if it falls. Like somebody comes, like if like they arrange publicity, like I did some website stuff, and I'll do it with other writers I know when I meet them, like and I talk to them. But I don't seek it out as much as I maybe should. And a part of that is because I think the whole world has changed a lot with the rise of prominent self-publishing. And I'm not gonna be down on self-publishing. I'm not down on that. I think it's more options are good. But it's changed the way, even in the 15 years I've been doing this, the way that everybody's got a book to push out, and it's really hard to stand out, and everyone is hustling. We're all hustling. And it because I used to even do book signings, not because I even thought the book signings were that important for the to reach the people, but to reach the booksellers and those people who are really those are the people that determine our careers, really. But even then, like, I noticed in the space of, it used to be like, I'd go in, I'd be like, oh, I've got a book, and they'd arrange a signing to, well, you got to go here and you got to do this, and I'm like that. And it's because everybody's got a book, and there's so much to do now. And so I don't know. I mean, I always feel like I should do more, but I also feel like so much of it is distracting me from writing, and also very, very ineffective. And I worry sometimes that there's a lot of pressure put on new writers, and even existing, even established writers, but to push themselves out there to promote as much as possible. And ultimately, I don't know how much it matters as much as we want it to matter. And that is not easy to say, because I don't want to discourage anybody from trying, but it really is discouraging in a lot of ways. I mean, for me, I kind of just kind of abandoned it in many ways, and that's not a good attitude, I don't think, either. But I don't really have a good solution for it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you in a lot of ways. I mean, marketing is kind of its own full-time job, or it can really expand to be its own full-time job very, very quickly. And I mean, that kind of gets in the way of what should be kind of obviously you have the job that pays your bills, but then you've got the job of write more books. And that's kind of the best thing you can do for your career, really. Write more books, have more in the pipeline, have more ready to go. If you spend 4 hours a day cold calling bookstores, and I mean, same thing about self-pubbing, there's nothing, it has its place, and I mean, it has plenty of people who do really well at it, and they do great work. And it's the right venue for certain books, straight up. But the problem is the glut of it then means that you can call up a bookstore and say, hi, I'm an author, my book is coming out, I've got a blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, no, we're not doing any more self-pub books. And I'm like, no, this is on the shelves at Barnes & Noble. It was put out through Rock, which is a subsidiary of Penguin. Have you heard about that one? And they're like, oh. But yeah, you end up in all these conversations, and everyone's kind of tired of, oh, it's someone else's book. I mean, you can spend so much time, and you can spend, I mean, this week alone in my email box, I've had 4 emails from people who would love to review my book if I pay them. People love to take money from people who are desperate to get marketing and publicity. And there are lots of people who are making a lot of money off of the desperation of young writers and new writers, because they can say, oh, well, give me $200, I'm going to put it in this magazine and do this and do that and do this. And it can be very enticing when you're sitting there with the book that you desperately want to sell, and you're not sure how you're supposed to sell this thing, but you think, well, if I just invest $200, no, don't do that. It's going to be on a website that, and there are a lot of book bloggers who put their hearts and souls into reviews, and they are amazing people. And if you can send them an arc, sure, absolutely, and get to know them, and that's wonderful. But it can't become your home life, and you should not put a lot of money into it, at all, not at all.
I think that's a helpful tip that I got actually ages ago from a marketing guy at Random House. For differentiation, marketing you pay for, publicity is free. And I think when we're starting out, or even when we're deep into it, and we're trying to promote a book, we should be really clear what our budget is for marketing, because you don't want to drop. If you lucked into like a $5,000 advance on something, you don't want to spend $2,000 on marketing to do a blog tour, or less to get a promoted Facebook ad or something.
I had a bit of a in between my research days and writing, I had a bit of a a stint in marketing and sales for in biotech. So I quite actively, when I got my first book deal, I quite actively contacted all of these bloggers and got them copies of ARCs and did blog tours. And I was doing a lot of my own self publicity. So I wasn't paying anybody to do it for me, but I was out there. I was doing like all sorts of blog tours. And I think I did that for the first 3 books in my Owl series. What I learned very quickly was that people, like, I mean, the good thing is I still have fans that follow me from when I did those blog tours, because it was the author who went out and contacted them, and they were really so grateful. Like, they were really happy to get a book and have somebody interested, you know, in their blog, and just getting them books to review. And, you know, I kept sort of a list, and I still have my publishers send out those blogs, ARCs, except I get my publisher to do it for me now. What I learned was, you know, I did see little bumps from those blog tours, but it was nothing compared to the BookBub that my publisher bought. So I didn't pay anything for it. My publisher did that. They got my book into a BookBub. And the other thing they did was they, I guess, put me forward for one of the Amazon daily deals. And so I got a few of those for that series. And it is, you learn very quickly that you build up contacts when you do like blog tours and you're contacting people, but it's nothing compared to what a publisher can do.
Yeah.
Even on a series that, you know, was not a huge advance. Like, I mean, that was my first series out the gate. It was not a big advance, yet still what they could do with just putting my book out for these little marketing things was just incredible. And that was a real lesson for me. I also, when I started meeting authors at different conventions, I would start talking to other Canadian authors who had like deals with Amazon, and they were bestsellers with Amazon's actual like imprint. So I think 49 North or something, but they 47 North, whichever it is. But
I can never remember that.
I can never remember it either.
I always want to say like 52 West. Seriously, I know it's a number in like the 40s, 50s, and a direction, and I know that's horrible. That I should really be.
I kind of think that they're trying to get that latitude around Seattle, and maybe that's it.
Is that what it is?
I think maybe Amazon, but anyway. The point is, I would talk to them, and I'm like, "Oh, do you guys do blog tours?" And so one of an author I knew whose book series has been doing fantastic through their imprint had asked, "Hey, you know, my friend's doing blog tours and setting them up. Should I do this?" And they went, "Yeah, we don't really do that because the algorithms tell us we can do more here.
Yeah,
sitting in behind a computer and tweaking algorithms." And so, you know, on one hand, I don't want to say it's bad, because you do make contacts and lists of people.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's nothing compared to what a publisher you do. And this is one of those things when people talk about self-pubbing versus a publisher, and the advances are a lot lower now, and you know, it's you could do all your own marketing and publishing if you're, you know, publicity if you're self-publishing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, a small advance, quite a small advance, and that was still what they were able to do for me. You know, to give you an idea, a BookBub costs like, I think, $5 or $6 grand for one of them if you're a self-pubbed author, and the publishers just buy, you know, packages of them. So it's
Well, I think the thing that keeps coming up that it is. You said it perfectly. You said it's a full-time job. It's not like, and that's where the burden of self-publishing has, but all writers can suffer from that, which is marketing and publicity. That's not just when you do casually. Now it can be, but there's going to be the best way I do it casually is you just meet people, you're cordial, you form relationships, but even then don't hustle. Like, you know, don't always, it's not about, you know, it's just about forming connections with people and getting yourself out there. But I find that, like, you know, we've all met writers, self-published and traditionally published, who are always hustling so much.
Oh,
And at the end of the day, you know, it doesn't uniform, it's not consistent enough to lead to like better sales, because nobody really knows. I mean, that's the ultimate answer. Nobody really knows what's going to happen and how it works. There's certain things they can try, and they should, because they got experience. But ultimately, this goes back to, you know, what blows up and what doesn't. You know, I was talking to an editor, and he said it perfectly. He goes, this writer doesn't blog at all, his books sell a ton. This writer blogs all the time, his books don't sell that well. This writer doesn't write at all, his books sell a ton. This writer blogs, and it's like, he goes, there's no correlation we can figure out.
yeah.
There's definitely things, if you're with a gigantic publisher and they throw like the full weight of their marketing department behind you, you're gonna do better. It's just inevitable. But honestly, anything below that, you know, it's kind of like we have tactical nuclear warhead and we don't know. Those are the two levels of marketing.
Like my book, Constance Verity trilogy, got optioned for a film. It's not even, you know, we're still working on it, so it probably won't happen, because that's usually what happens. But like a friend of mine, there was
this
like
is the big casually drop. Who was going to star? Who was going to be Constance Verity?
Well, Aquafina's attached. We'll see. But like my friend, who is another like a writer, he was at the DMV, and there was like, you know, that they have like the TV screen that just flashes news, and it actually flashed my name, and he was like, "Oh my God!" and he took a picture, and I was like, "That's probably the biggest publicity I've ever gotten." And it's not even about me; it's about a movie that they might make about a book. You know what I mean? And realizing that was like, that's just the DMV killing some time, but that was more than anything I could do, and
I'm
that's
big
just
in the DMV.
Yes, you texted me because you showed me, and I was just texting back. I was like, I knew it was big, but I didn't know it was DMV big. But I mean, I think it's easy to drive yourself crazy, and especially all writers. Again, you know, and I think this is going to come back. I think this is a topic that I think comes like all the time when it comes about writing. It's easy to drive yourself crazy, because even when you're established, you put something out. I've been doing this for 15 years, and there's still, every time I put out a book, I'm like, I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea what the response is. I'm really not even sure how well it's going to do or anything. And that is maddening in a way. It's very maddening in this industry, because you worked hard for it. I mean, you've worked, especially because it's like you've worked a while. It takes a while for the book to come out, to do it. And then you're like, well, all right, now I just got to work on something else to see what happens. And that can be really disconcerting. And I never want to tell people not to work on their marketing, because if they're liking doing it, if you want to blog or you want to tweet or you want to do tours, and you can do it, but don't let it overwhelm you.
Yeah, it has to fit your personality too. I mean, some people are not not even a little social butterflies.
Yeah.
And telling them to go like shake it on Twitter and do blog posts and do this and make yourself really followable and all this, it's just gonna break their hearts, and it's gonna.
I'm going to use that quote from now on. Someone's going to tell you to shake it on Twitter. You don't do that if you don't want to.
I think that's a great point, though. I think a lot of times, like, people will get this, like, you know, publicity marketing advice, and it's just not them. Yeah. I think one of the biggest things you can do is just be honest. You know, if you are not, if you're not somebody who likes social media, don't be on social media.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, yeah, because it's going to hurt you. Don't do something you don't want to do, because it's just going to make it worse on you. Because first of all, it's going to take time and effort, but also you're right. Like, if you're not good at Twitter, like if you don't know what to tweet and you're not sure, and every time you tweet somebody responds negatively, go off. You don't need to be on there. You don't need to be on there. You know.
I've talked about this a bunch of times. I'm going to drop off horrible name. My friend Craig DeLuey is a wonderful guy. He's a phenomenal writer. He sucks at social media, but he knows it. Like he has this like bare bones Twitter account that basically just tells you go to my website, but he's like, I have no interest in this.
Yeah,
this is not me. This is not my thing, and he's not forcing himself to do it. You know. So
well, and I think it's also worth mentioning that I'm sure there's exceptions, but like almost every editor and agent I've ever talked to has never said, oh yeah, I looked at this book, it was really good, but they only have 10 Twitter followers, so I'm not going to take it. That's not a thing that, and now the opposite end, you know, unless your book is specifically about social media or something like that, no one goes like, man, this book really sucked. Oh, you have 100,000 Twitter followers? Well,
that's just, I've actually, for when we would do the coffee house in real time in person, I've talked with my agent specifically about that. The only time a publisher will care about if you have a big following is if you're writing a nonfiction book.
Yes.
That they want to know people are actually interested in what you have to say on this topic. But I mean, okay, sure. If you're about to sell your first book and you have 10 million Twitter followers, cool, because that will translate to some good sales. But I think it's probably a safe bet that like 1,000 followers might mean one sale.
Yeah.
You know? If we're lucky.
I don't know. You might be generous, Peter.
I might be generous. That's just it. But I don't think.
I was about to say,
Yeah, but I don't think anyone, like Alex was saying, I don't think there are no publishers who are going to say, wow, you know, it's a phenomenal book, but they've only got 200 Twitter followers.
Yeah,
guess we'll have to pass.
When I did my trilogy, I didn't have a Twitter account. I didn't have really anything. And they said, you know, like a month before the book was going to come out, you should set up a website. You should go on Twitter.
Yeah,
I was like, okay.
I resisted Twitter for so long. I don't think I got a Twitter account until my 6th book. And in all fairness, it was stupid of me, but I didn't do it till then. I found out Nathan Fillion was tweeting about my books, like my first 2 books, and he was just sort of like sending tweets out to nothing because I wasn't on Twitter. So, and I look back and I'm like, wow, I'd probably have like 30,000 Twitter followers right
That's
now.
right.
That'd be an extra 30 sales of her every book.
The other thing, though, I think is also worth mentioning is there is the danger of, if you are going to do Twitter or blog or anything like that online, I mean, I'm just going to, is it right if I use blue language? Don't be an asshole. I mean, because there's so many people who like, I know a writer, and that was one of the things they did is they would complain that they couldn't get their break in publishing. You know, they did some self-publishing and it was very successful. But if you went to their website, it was complaining about the publishing industry and how much it sucks. and you're like, and I know for myself, like I'm with Simon & Schuster now with Saga, and my editor, Joe Monti, who became my editor, like when we were still talking to each other before we were working out what we're going to do, like one of the things he did was I love like Walt Simonson, comic book writer Walt Simonson, and I blogged about it, and he read me an email, and I was like, oh, he must have read my blog. So that was not bad because there was no way I have a common interest and stuff like that. And you know, we can help. But like if I had written a blog about like, oh man, why doesn't the world appreciate my genius? Everybody in publishing sucks. That's not going to make somebody eager to work with me. So that could hurt you. Don't do that. Don't blog about how genius you are. Please don't.
Oh yeah. You, no one wants to show their ass in public.
Yeah. Try.
Unless you got a nice one.
And even then, it's going
to. And even then.
Yeah, definitely stay positive. If you're going to do any form of social media thing, I think the worst thing you can do is be attacking people.
Yeah.
Over anything, even like man, it's fun to pile on, but don't.
You don't even have to attack anybody. I think it was, you know, and this is something we haven't talked about, and we should, and that's that even if you are successful on Twitter and you engage with your audience and you're doing a great job at it, you know, it's an asset. It can very quickly turn into a huge liability and lose you a contract. One that was in the news a while back, might have been a couple years ago now, Chuck Wendick.
Oh yeah.
Disney broke his broke the contract for one of his series, and it had to do with a series of tweets that were that didn't work with their brand.
Well, but in all fairness, I mean, I know Chuck and I talked to him, is that it was much more about how a bunch of people chose to respond to the tweets.
Absolutely, but that's Twitter.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the truth of it.
That's social media.
social
Yeah.
media, the big electronic.
Social media is like holding a tiger by the tail. I mean, honestly, if you're going to be out there and have a big following, it's a dangerous thing because it can turn really fast on you. I mean, in some ways, it's almost kind of comforting to have a smaller kind of reach and just be like, I talk with my author friends, I talk with people who like my books, I do this, I do that, and not want to have like 30 million followers that it can go south fast.
And Chuck Wendig's a great author. Like, he's a fantastic teen author. I loved his Atlanta Burns series. So
he's a lovely writer. He's a
people should read
sweetheart in person, and he does social media very, very well.
Absolutely.
He got a film deal out of social media. He got,
yes, that's true.
Screwing around with Sam Sykes, they got a movie deal off being goofy on Twitter.
Yes, so it can work for someone, but you know, it works with how Chuck functions. It works with Chuck's personality.
Yeah.
And Chuck also, he doesn't let that kind of pile-on get to him in a horrible way either. He can still function. There are some people who, I mean, social media can derail their days.
Yeah, and you don't need that. If it's going to do that to you, you don't need to be on there. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's think. I know we're running a little short on time. I think we got a little over 10 minutes left. If you were putting out your first book right now, what do you wish you would have known to do?
Huh.
Now, knowing what you know now, as experienced savvy authors, what would you?
I hate to say it, I think I would have worried less about the blog tours. Because I liked getting to know the bloggers. I liked sending people arcs. I liked making the connections like Kristi's saying. But some of those blog posts were, and the interviews were fine, but some of those things like, can you write a blog post in the style of your character, speaking to this? And it's just like, oh, those would just eat a day. And they were terrible. And I don't think they sold a single book. I think in retrospect, I'd say, those are not your strength. Do an interview, do something like this, form the connections. And I mean, once you have the book, you can, you make friends, you form connections, you learn about people. And if you do it in an honest way and not a kind of, here's my business card, and then down the line, we've all met that person. Though we all love our business cards at cons. We love our business cards. I go home and I'm not happy unless I've got like a fucking stack of those, of all the people I met. I can be like, oh, I met this person. Oh, this person was fun. I got to talk to them again. But I would worry less about that aspect of it, because you can spend a lot of days creating that kind of content, and if it's not something that comes naturally to you, it's not going to do a lot. I mean, so I would have, it's funny to say I would have done a little less, but I don't think it had much effect.
Yeah, I'm in there with you, Robin. I would have done, as much as I enjoyed just the interaction with people, in retrospect, I would have been worried about the next book and writing the next book. And just writing, because it doesn't, like everybody here has said in one way or another, it doesn't matter how many followers you have and or how successful you become on social media. It's not necessarily going to sell a book. So having the book and getting it to your agent maybe raises the chances of it getting sold a little bit. So
I mean, someone who commits that time to read your tweets, which are 300 characters or less, they are not necessarily signing up to read a 300-page book.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I mean, okay, so my book came out, it's like 15 years ago, so there wasn't Twitter and all that stuff. I didn't really worry too much about that stuff. I wasn't too worried about that internet stuff. And I don't think, as far as I can tell, it hasn't really changed. I don't think it's changed. I think it's all about, at the end of the day, you just got to do the work and worry about the work. And I mean, don't lose opportunities. If somebody comes along and is like, hey, would you like to, just do a little interview? Sure. Okay. That's fine. But also don't feel pressure if something's really outside of your comfort zone. But I think it's just, I think ultimately the job of the writer is to write and try to get it. Again, self-publish is a little different because you usually have your own goals and you have to kind of do it. But I still think, and I think it was Chris Robertson, he was talking on Twitter and he said that about, he was a really big self-publishing advocate until he realized he spent more time working on self-publishing than actual writing on self-publishing, you know? Mm-hmm. And so there's that risk, but I think the thing is, I mean, I guess it's the same advice I think always give is don't drive yourself crazy with all the nonsense that's not important. Because ultimately the only thing you can do is you can write your best work, get it in the best form it can be, and get it out there and give it the best shot. But I find if you're trying to put your energy on publicity, its energy could be going towards writing, and it's the only thing we really control. The only thing we really control as writers, as artists, is what the product we create, the thing we create. Because, you know, you could write the best book in the world. I'm sure there's a ton of brilliant books out there right now that nobody's reading, you know, and that's not a mark of failure on their part. That's just the way the world works. And we all know terrible books that do very well. It's like, and some of those books get a huge publicity push. Other ones just caught on fire. And if you show me a consistent way of how they work, I don't think it exists. And I think that's the main thing is keep in mind is you're probably not going to make one of these decisions is not going to make or break you.
Yeah. I think my big tip to someone would be, because I think, again, this is one of those things that gets pushed a lot as advice. This is going to sound like, I don't know, really mean or cruel. Don't aim high. Well, okay, going off my own experience, seriously, if you're a first-time author, don't try to get friggin' Stan Lee to do your book. Don't try to get Bruce Campbell. Don't think, man, if only I could get Tom Cruise, if only I get Stephen, man, if I could get a blurb from Stephen King, that would really make this, you know? There's a reason the real networking tip you always hear is network laterally. That don't aim up here. Look at all the people who are on the same level with you.
That you get, that's not really mean. That's an appropriate thing because like I've gotten really good responses by reaching out people that are near. I mean, levels are kind of vague, but like near my level because we're both reaching out.
There are no writing tiers where.
No. It's not
What's your fighting weight?
Alex, as a tier 3, what do you think we should do?
Wouldn't that be so much easier? I always wish that like writing was like that, where you'd be like, you leveled up, but like, oh, I did a little dance, I must have leveled up.
I've got a blue badge now. Look.
I double specialize in characterization. But like,
+2 to my art class.
Dialogue, +2.
And I think it's because the people that like Stephen King is huge. If they're interested in Stephen King, well, first of all, a lot of people read Stephen King who don't read a lot of other books, and so you know he's not really as inclusive and as grab as many people as you think. But somebody who's on a lower tier, whatever that means, like if they're reading books, they probably read a lot of books. They probably read more books, and it's not that a lot of people. I mean, again, Stephen King, tons of people read his books, including a lot of people read a ton of books, but it still is. It's a much more crowded market. Like if somebody's like a fan of me and then they are like, oh, well, he recommended this Peter Klein's book, I'll check that out. It's not that big a leap. It's not the same thing. And it's also like more likely because we're on the same tier maybe. I don't know if we're not. We'll find out if we fight and then if one of us wins with more hit points. But I'm
putting all my experience points into character arcs. I'm telling you that. Actually, in my one other little piece of advice, if you're gonna try and contact, well, not Stan Lee, obviously, but if you're gonna try and contact Stephen King, whatever, don't do stuff publicly because then you put people in the bad place of, you know, having to say, like right now, I think I've got 7 books on my nightstand to blurb in the next 2 months, you know. And I know by the end of these 2 months, there's going to be more books there. So randomly hitting somebody up and saying, gosh, it would really be the best thing in my life if Alex Martinez would read my new book. And,
Yeah.
it puts an author in a bad place where
I'll
then,
put people always be mindful. Have some decorum.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's try and send them a message, find some other way to send them a message. And if you can't find another way to send them a message, that's probably telling you something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one other bit of advice I want to throw out there, and this is something I avoided doing. I did
you've
not
got a
do
minute.
this.
We've got a minute and 40 seconds left. So.
All right. Don't buy Twitter followers or Instagram
Yes.
followers.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
that's good advice.
That is a great piece of
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah. Not gonna help.
No.
Not at all.
No.
And
But
there's
weirdly
tons.
enough, I think Carvel Ice Cream followed me and I think Marshall Marasquez. I'm getting his name wrong. And weirdly enough, we had a good day off of that. They were retweeting and responding to us for a little while. That bot.
Oh, that's cool.
So they made
Lego's the dream. If I can get Lego as a
no, they made a fake cover for him with like a sundae on it.
Oh my God.
It was
That's awesome.
amazing.
Anyway, I think that's all the time we've got on this one. Thank you guys for helping out. And
Thank
you much. And I hope this helps somebody.
That's all any of us hope, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If we stopped one person from buying Twitter followers, it was worth it.
It was all worth it.